right, we'll go ahead and get started. Dallas Cowboys, probably one of the top special teams units in the league, well coached, dynamic returner, great punter. Kicker hasn't missed a kick yet, and then they got unbelievable cover players. They got defensive end that plays gunner on the outside. So there's a lot of things that when you turn on this tape, we need to play well. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
We saw with Ihmir's return, there was like a statistic out there that he had like I'm sorry, I'm looking it up again because it went off my phone, but like a 0.7% chance of converting on that, or 7% chance, something like that. It was very small.
I didn't see the stats before the play. I don't know. Go ahead.
But anyway, so pretty improbable return just based off statistics. So he had just a 0.4% probability of scoring on his 79-yard touchdown. So, like, that's pretty crazy. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. Like I always say, stats are just ideas about numbers, and so I don't know how they get all that. I'm just glad he scored. Thought the guys did a nice job, and I'm glad we were able to contribute there.
Stats and analytics played a big role, it sounds like, in Frank's decision to try that 59-yarder with Eddie. Where did you come down on that? He said there were mixed views on the sideline among you guys.
I think Coach made the right call. I know we can talk about it at length. It's the call. You made it. We went out there. Obviously, we didn't make it. Got a lot of confidence in Eddie. I've seen him hit those kicks. Wind was at his back. I think what Cairo hit was that 55 or was that 54? 54. So, and I know that stadium, but I thought we give the information. Coach makes the decision. We go.
Those analytics, though, do they kind of fail to take into consideration a place like Soldier Field when it's early November, it's starting to get colder?
No, I would say this about analytics, and I think it's a useful tool. I really do. But with that tool, you have to use it in the context of the game. And Eddie was kicking real well. You noticed all the touchbacks were going that way because the wind was aiding it going that way. Like I say, at the end of the day, got a lot of confidence in our guy. And I think he's a really good player. And I know statistically, analytically, they're going to say that he's missed 3 kicks. I think he's kind of, in my opinion, has missed 1 kick. The Seattle that's a tough kick he missed. I still think he can make that. But he's hitting the ball really well. And I like where he's at. That's what practice tells me. His ball flight, there's a lot of things. So we got a lot of confidence in our guy.
Chris, independent of weather, what's Eddie's range? What's the number at which you're comfortable sending him out there?
I think it's dependent upon each game. So, like, typically what all special teams coaches do is you go out and you're in pregame and I always like to say I go out and walk the track, see how the horses are going to run that day and see how the wind's playing. And then you start formulating things and seeing how the ball flies. Then you get into pregame and seeing how he's striking the ball. And then from there you begin to set your line. I mean, obviously in practice he's hit from 60 for us, so and to be honest with you, I think it was in 2019 when he was trying out for us. We had the family day at Soldier, and I want to say Eddie went. I'd have to go back and look. He might have gone 58, 59. That was in August, but he has range.
He wasn't that long pregame the other night.
What's that?
What was he
went
hitting?
60.
That direction.
That direction. Yep.
how much do you factor in, kicking, with the tee as opposed to having like pressure in your face and all that other stuff from a range standpoint?
I think what you're studying and what you're watching is ball flight, and what does it look like. And I always say that, like, a guy could make a 55-yard kick, but maybe it's an X ball. It doesn't have the good rotation, and it's kind of moving as it's going down there. Although he made it, you say to yourself, that's a bad strike. It's not a good hit. Whereas he might hit a really good ball and miss it, and you go, you know what, he has that tonight. So there's a lot of other factors that go into it.
Your routine is gathering that kind of information pregame. I think I noticed you even picking up the grass before and kind of watching as it grows in the wind. Can you break down what you're gathering and what that looks like for you?
I just want to see as I walk the field and kind of learned it from my dad. He was a high school football coach and probably the best coach I've ever been around. But as a kid, I was his water boy, and he'd always just pick the grass up and drop it and see how the wind was blowing it. So I've kind of followed suit on that. But I like to go to different spots in the field and just kind of feel it because to the left of our bench in Soldier, there's a little bit of a different wind pattern than when you go to the right of the bench. And that's just obviously just being there and coaching a lot of games there. But that's all. I'm just trying to piece all that stuff together so that when Eddie comes out and then we start our routine, I have an idea of what the wind pattern is in those certain sections, and then I'm watching ball flight and all those things to determine what the range is going to be.
We've asked you a lot about Tariq. How disappointing to see his comeback. I don't know if it's over, but certainly a setback.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's not over. I think that you're dealing with a player that he's been obviously coming back from an injury, fought through a lot of things. I just know what's inside of him that we can call it a setback. I just call it just a minor little bump. Hamstrings are hamstrings. Happens to a lot of players. He's no different. I expect him to be back, and when he does, just kind of keep seeing where he's at because he was doing really well. He really was, and I'm disappointed for him, but at the same time, I'm still excited about where he's going to go.
Chris, you've been around the league for a really long time. When there's a shakeup in the coaching staff or a shakeup in responsibilities, how does that affect other people on the staff, and what do you try to do to kind of maybe compartmentalize?
No, I don't think anything of it, to be quite honest with you. I stay in my lane. I'm an assistant coach. My job, I always say, is to help fulfill what the head coach's vision is, and that's my job. So if things happen or whatever, I just want to make sure that the vision he has for our special teams unit is being executed, and if it's not, what can I do better to improve that? So to me, that's just how I approach things.
Time for a few more.
We've seen JJ be pretty animated on the sideline as far as like if there is a penalty or if he's watching the play go. You've said before that he and Johnny are like coaches on the sideline. Does he sometimes point out stuff like in game that you might not notice?
Oh yeah, 100%. In fact, we did something the other day in practice. I gave him a look that was not presented in the meeting, and he got down over the ball, and I was happening on the other side, and he looked at me and he said, "What's this?" And I just said, "Well, they can do whatever they want over there." But he studies things. He knows what's coming. He's a great pro. I love having him, and like I always say, I'm glad he's here. It's a big, him and Johnny, they're big security blankets for me.
Laviska's back practicing. Will Raheem remain the kick return?
Yeah, I think we'll have to see. I think what's nice is we got kind of a couple ponies back there now, and I think that's what you always want. You want to have more than just one horse. And, I'm real pleased with both those guys where they're at, and Raheem's obviously doing a really, really good job for us, so hopefully we can continue that.
You kind of have to go with whatever the offensive defense, from a depth chart, but is that like something that you would fight for if you said, hey, he's leading the league in kick return yardage?
I think I'm always going to fight for. I think as a special teams coach, I just don't never fight just for special teams. I like to think that I have a whole global view, and at the end of the day, what's going to help us win. And I always say, if you're up on game day and you have a helmet, you're contributed to winning. So every piece should have that, and so that's how I look at things.